Hello and welcome to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. In today's video, I wanted to take a look at Bitcoin dominance as well as the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, because as many of you have been watching my videos on crypto, most of us are concerned with the price action of altcoins and wondering, when is alt season? We've noted many times before in these videos that when the Bitcoin dominance tanks, that is truly when alt season goes, and when most, not every, when most altcoins that are going to run, whether it be 5x, 20x, whatever, happens in this time. So we've been trying to get an idea what is going to happen this time with Bitcoin dominance and when we can expect altcoins to really rally. And so before we go any further, let's start off with fear and greed. Something important to note, we've been talking about this for a while too, how fear has been making higher lows, and we got up into greed recently. Of course, why wouldn't we? We were getting near all-time highs, and then yesterday, I'm not sure if Bitcoin actually did break above the March all-time high. It got pretty close, but as you can see, greed is now making a higher high as well. So you could call this a reversal of the trend. We'll see if it continues. As we go further into this video, something to keep in the back of your mind, you can just type in Bitcoin dominance in Google Images and get many charts that look like this. But we're looking for the percent of money overall that is in Bitcoin to rotate into altcoins. And if you get lucky enough and your altcoins or mining stocks are chosen, then you can see some really good profits. That's what's happened the last two cycles. And as far as the alt season index, you can see we're making higher lows and higher highs. However, even though Bitcoin's going up, the overall altcoin pairing is still going down. So some of that value from alts is rotating into Bitcoin. Of course, I also talk about every week where I think we are in the macro cycle. We go over the Bitcoin rainbow chart and try to talk about what's similar, what's different as far as previous cycles and where we may be going. But one thing I try to do different on my channel, which is answer the essential question of, is now a good time to buy? Because many channels, they get obsessed with predictions, and being right or wrong is not as important as making money. So I talk about many times what I look for as far as value, how to look for certain coins, different indicators, and I try to keep the indicators I use pretty simple. So for example, I look at moving averages, which I can highlight for you, buy sell signals, fibs, stochastic RSI, things such as that. So we're going to be taking a little bit of a different perspective on seeing, is the altcoin market showing a cheaper time to buy? And that's why I think it's important to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. When retail comes in, it's usually at the tops, which is right here, again, when the overall percent of money is flowing into or out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. And right here, this is when you're hearing family and friends, random people all of a sudden talk about crypto. It's right near the end, typically within months of the very top. So for all you that are watching this video, consider yourself lucky. You have an opportunity to look for good discounts before altcoins get up here. Again, if you choose the right one, you got to do your own research, put your money where your mouth is. So let's go back here and just take a look at what Bitcoin dominance has recently been doing since December of 22. And in November of 22, if some of you weren't around in crypto at that time, that is when one of the largest exchanges, FTX, filed for bankruptcy. The whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing, that happened right down here. Bitcoin dominance has been going up ever since, and that was also the bottom of Bitcoin. So as you can see here, December 22, November 22, that was the bottom of Bitcoin, and dominance has been going up ever since. Okay, let's go back. And as far as dominance going up, let's show our moving averages. When I look at stocks or cryptos, I'm taking a look at what moving average is the stock or crypto in love with the most. And you can argue it's the red line, which is a 20-week moving average. Okay, and that's the EMA. So every time it comes down, it gets a good bounce. What you can also see here, there was a cross, a golden cross, I believe they call it, which is the gold. That's the 50-week moving average, moving above the blue line, the 200-week moving average. So after that happens, it tends to be pretty bullish for Bitcoin dominance. Now, as far as my targets this time around, for where I'm looking for Bitcoin dominance to fall, you can see I have this horizontal trend line just at the bottom, and that's to plainly say that last 2 cycles, dominance got down to the low 40 percentile. There's nothing more to it. That's all I'm going to look for. But we also have the very dip, and you can take a look at it as an ascending trend line, and maybe dominance only goes down to 42%. Okay, whatever. Either way, there are altcoins and miners that will peak here, some that will peak here. Last time around, there were some that peaked here. So again, this rule isn't strictly perfect for all altcoins, but do know in this, again, the essential question, how can you make money, or what are some ways to look for making money, is to set your price targets right now. A lot of people, they buy in, they're not buying in for the best value they can get. They're not paying attention to the handful of altcoins every week, and they just buy in when they hear about it. Okay, so they're not getting the best discounted value, they're not dollar cost averaging in, and they don't have a price target. And what happens to retail, this happened last time, and this happened to me the first time around, is I was in Tron. I got it for a fifth of a penny, and when that thing blasted off and all of a sudden did something like a 200x, it was ridiculous. I didn't know how high it's going to keep going, and I thought, hey, this thing's going to keep going forever. And my stupid self never took profits until after the top came in. I still got good profits, great profits, but I didn't get incredible once-in-a-lifetime profits when I should have. This time around, I was smarter about it, took profits from the altcoins as in here. So do set price targets, and you can do that through Fibonacci extensions. You can do that by numbers or multiples. There are many ways to go about it, or even looking at market cap as well. So right here, you can see that Bitcoin dominance, when it does fall, I have this line marked out here, this blue horizontal line, where many of these peaks are from after Bitcoin dominance made the last bottom. And so, in my opinion, if dominance were to come down here, if it were to bounce, I wouldn't be so sure that it was truly the bottom. But if it gets underneath this line or somewhere close to it, I guess we can move it up. It's not the perfect trend line. And I think there's a lot of convergence even right around here. Okay, if it gets under that line, I'm going to say, hey, it's go time, 2-minute warning, fourth quarter, all that stuff. Let's turn off the moving averages so we don't have too much going on. Okay. Now, you can also see that I have these trend lines, the horizontal and the descending blue ones that met right here. I drew this, for those of you who've been subscribed to this channel, I drew this a long time before dominance broke through it. I just said, hey, there's a bottom here. There's a lot of other convergence or things that happened beforehand, as well as here. We have the descending value. Let's see where it meets up. And my base case was that would be the absolute lowest point Bitcoin dominance would have to go to before rolling over. I did say it could go higher, but I said that's the point I would expect for it to get to at bare minimum. It got through it, and now it's going up. And the target I made for the Bitcoin dominance top, and I've seen people making targets with Fibonacci retracement, getting something around the 618, and that makes sense. But I'll just show you where I drew these red lines. So again, convergence of prior peaks and dips before, and you can see when dominance was tanking, it settled in here before going down, and as you can see where it settled in right here was where there's a lot of points before. That's right around 62%. That's my case for where I'm expecting the peak of dominance to go. Could it go higher? Sure. Now, let's take a look at where the peak of dominance was here. Okay. If you go all the way to the left, you can see after dominance really started falling and got its first bounce, its first true fall and bounce, that's where dominance peaked from the cycle before. So I'm just taking that logic, applying it forward. Again, it might hit the fib perfectly or not perfectly and get to the 618. Who knows? And if we just draw a fib here from the high to the low, it's not going to be perfect. You can see here, did I draw that right? I don't think I drew that right. Well, the 618 here shows 57%. Now I'm wondering, I'm like, how did those other people get the 618? Again, we're not going to spend all day doing this. Yeah, the 618, of course, would be lower when I drop from the bottom. Irregardless, 618 is some people's targets. Maybe they took it off the log. Let's try this one more time. You guys are watching how the magic happens in real time. Yeah, okay, you can see the 618 right there, actually, at 60%. So we have to take it off log. Since I look at crypto on the long-term scale, I find log works better overall. So I'm not going to take it off log and say, well, hey, look, the fib off log works. Okay, so maybe that's the target right there. Again, I look at things as a range. Too many people with predictions get obsessed with exact numbers. I don't give a crap, okay? What I care about is getting into the right altcoins and making the profits, hitting the profit targets I want, and buying those altcoins or mining stocks at a discount at the right time, okay? In Bitcoin dominance, the Ethereum pair, it just shows us, are we at the deepest value for alts or not? And before we go down, Bitcoin dominance, those tend to coincide with certain points of those cycles. So where are these tops? It's something to look back in time and note. Here the tops are September 2019 and December 2020. Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened in December 2020. That's when Bitcoin was breaking above its all-time high from 2017 and going into the final leg of the bull run. Okay, I know that's what happened in December 2020. September of 19, though, let's go take a look. That's not a date that people often talk about. So I know where June and July 2019 is. That was the mid-cycle top. As far as September 2019, well, where was that? That was right here. And as you can see, Bitcoin was going sideways before it dumped off a little bit. And that's what happened after the first peak. All right, something important to know. And right here, this is a lot of people are comparing this rally right now to what's going on over here. Well, let's check. Where was February 2020 on the Bitcoin dominance chart? Okay, it was when Bitcoin dominance dipped back here and was almost forming its true base. Is Bitcoin dominance dipped or formed its true base? No. And maybe that's going to happen, but as you can see, it's still very bullish. The trend is still up. So already things are different this time. And as I've been looking at this, and I've seen all the theories out there, and the two main ones are that either we're getting an early top in March 4-year cycle from the first point where all season was, or we're just getting the regular top 4-year cycle from November. Okay, and that's all fine and good. But when I look at this, for us to believe that we'd be getting the early top, wouldn't we have to be very close? Well, we'd have to be, 5 months away? Okay, 5 months away from this top, and this is when it ended. So I guess, let's say April. Let's say we're 6 months away, okay? We're 6 months away. Well, what was 6 months away before April? Where was the end of October and November? Okay, right here. So if you believe the top is in March or April, and you're comparing it to the last cycle, then we should see something like this, where Bitcoin dominance is going to go up, maybe for another couple months. Okay, January, again, we're just comparing one-to-one, things connect a little different, and then it falls over. If you believe in the early top, you want to see something like this, okay? Now, if you believe in the 4-year cycle, well, we got to add on another 6 or so months, right? Well, as you can see here, this is over a year behind. And so we would just have to squish down this whole range a little shorter. So what that would look like is Bitcoin, now let's draw here, is that Bitcoin dominance would top, it'd form a shorter sort of U, and then start falling, okay? I'm a great artist, okay? You don't have to tell me. And we have the chart freaking moving backwards at a little bit of time. Okay, drew an extra dot there. Let's go back to, I don't hear anyone talk about this. What happened in 2017? Okay, we talked about how in 2017, look at this. This was in May, and that would have been about 7-8 months, right? Before, yeah, 6 to 8 months before the top, where Bitcoin dominance bottomed, came up. Here is where it truly formed a base, okay? Truly formed a base in July. All right, that was about 5-6 months out. Came to one last peak and then dipped, okay? So are we seeing anything like this? Not as much because, well, first of all, altcoins, there weren't thousands of them back in 2017, and the chart was very different. The overall rotation, it started earlier. More altcoins are being made. This is a very different time in crypto than the last 2 cycles. I'll tell you that. The last 2 cycles, there's tons of altcoins out there, and it's really hard for people to pick the right ones. Many people are picking altcoins from previous cycles. Be careful with that, because many of the top altcoins from 2017 did not do as well in 2021. But as you can see here, it had this base, okay, came up from July to December, okay, so about 6 months. And then for a month, it tanked. When it tanked, this was all season. That's when alts popped off. All right. So if you believed in the 2017 scenario and you're saying to yourself, okay, you know, maybe we're going on our way up here. Well, what I would argue is the last 2 cycles, what has Bitcoin dominance done? It's after the peak, okay, it came up here at a peak, it formed a base. After the peak, came down here, it formed a base. Bitcoin dominance hasn't formed a base yet, and that's very curious to me. And what I think, if anything, this shows me is that maybe Bitcoin dominance is, and the top is further away than even I might realize. Now, maybe it's not so complicated, and to put it in the most simple way, we're going to have this and we top in March, okay? I'll give that to you guys. That's entirely possible. But let's say for a moment that we still haven't made our base. As I said, needs to happen. And maybe we're here in September, okay, getting close to September 19 or July 17. Maybe we still have a ways to go, a year or so. Markets, what's the expression? Markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. That's an expression I've often heard. And one of the charts I've been looking at is ETH Bitcoin. Okay, Ethereum, it's the top altcoin. We're just comparing against Bitcoin. I know it's getting a lot of FUD, and as you can see, the pairing is breaking down. Guys, if I've learned anything, when something's getting a lot of FUD, it usually tells you it's probably at a good value. Okay, and actually, if we go to Ethereum, we've been talking about this, how anywhere near the trend line, good value to get in. If Ethereum goes to 10K or some value like that, you're going to be very happy getting it now. Okay, I'm not saying it can't go lower, but just saying, I remember this last time around when Ethereum was getting a lot of hate, it was pretty close to the bottom. So again, we'll see. Anyways, taking a look at the Ethereum Bitcoin, let's take a look at where it bottomed. Well, would you look here, September of 2019 again. That number has popped up again. And we, for all we know, haven't even bottomed yet. I drew this trend line. It doesn't have to mean anything. It's curious it's breaking under. But for right now, we can just get rid of it. Maybe it's going to bottom down here, and we're going to get something like a horizontal trend line, whatever, okay? Doesn't matter. But the bottoms here, September 19, and then a second bottom, January of 2020. Remember, we said December 2020, okay? Right here is when Bitcoin was breaking above the previous all-time highs from the cycle below. So it's interesting that this September 19 number or date has popped up again. December 17th, this was, by the way, the start of alt season. So the start of alt season in 2017 was the beginning of December to the first week of January, right here. Okay, so it's hard to compare for back here because alt season was very short. But again, if your thesis is, you know what, we're going to get an early top, then this lines up with it. Okay, the 2016 scenario, the Bitcoin dominance scenario where I showed you where we're already near the end, that might be possible. But what if we're in September 19? If we're in September 19 scenario, let's go back to the prior cycle. Okay. Well, if we're in September 19, then we may be further out from the top. Look at that. Almost 800 days or 550 days. So that'd be what, like close to 2 to 3 years away from the top. And so, again, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but in my mind, when I'm thinking of what would make a scenario like this possible, and again, last week or the week before, we talked all about self-fulfilling prophecies. We can keep saying the same thing, the same theory, and get so locked into it that we're blind to other possibilities. If the stock and crypto market has taught me anything, is that you have to be comfortable being wrong and thinking outside your perspective. We put in money believing we are going to be right, and we're going to be disappointed more times than not, or oftentimes, I should say, you're going to be disappointed. So let's have that devil's advocate cap on for a moment. If we're wrong, what scenario would make for this, for the top to be out 2 to 3 years? Well, that's easy. There's been increasing talks of recession, inflation coming back. If 2025, early 26 turns out to be a very red negative year for the stock market, that would affect the crypto market. And maybe similar to 2017, you can see here is where the first Fed rate cuts are, that thesis, this argument, the September 2019 argument would be that the mid-cycle top may not be done yet. That if the mid-cycle top's not done yet, that we are further away from the tops than we think. That the top that we're possibly making soon, if we are going to make a top, could be another false mid-cycle top, and the true top could be further away, whether 550 days or almost 800 days. Something to consider. That would be different. And guys, I'm only saying this to bring up the possibility. Again, as far as the action, we're just looking at the action and the fractals and the dates of what Bitcoin dominance and the Ethereum Bitcoin pair has done before. If we're going by that September 2019 date, I think we have to consider this possibility of the cycle being stretched out. What also has me consider the cycle being stretched out is look at where the bottom was, December to February 2019, where the mid-cycle top was. It took half a year, okay? And from the bottom to the top, this time it took over a year, December 22, March of 24. It took longer to get to that mid-cycle top. Here, it went down this was around June. We talked about this. I know it's showing that September number. From June of 2019, we were down in this channel, had a false breakout. Again, that was about 6 months, but continued down almost for a whole year. Okay, it was close to it. So if we're getting a false breakout again, like 2019, we might be further from the top than we think. So devil's advocate cap on right there. Again, it's fully possible that we are in right here, okay? Or like I showed you with Ethereum, Bitcoin, that the top is closer than we think. But I just wanted to present to you sort of my train of thought and just how I was chewing on this. And again, we're just going by dates. We're going by fractals. We're going by movement of what it's done before. Does not mean that has to happen again. But I just thought it was curious to see, okay, Bitcoin dominance is moving on up. We don't know where the top is. What happens when it tops? Okay, it forms a base. We talked about that both times. There is a base. Here you could say, well, after the base, it came down from the top in 2016, 2017. Here it came from the bottom. Okay, we know how those cycles were different. But either way, if we haven't had a base yet, that's curious to me. Are we not going to get a base? Are we just going to fall through? Kind of like 2016. Is Bitcoin dominance just going from here to go down, sideways, and then down? I don't know, but I'm only bringing this up to show you different scenarios. Again, as far as what I'm taking a look at, when to buy, okay, if Bitcoin dominant, if Ethereum Bitcoin pair is still falling, that means ETH and many altcoins, not all, that their base low value pairing against Bitcoin, Satoshi value, hasn't bottomed. I know many people, most people probably, are concerned about the dollar pairing. I go over that too. We have the trend lines, we have the fibs. I put on the buy sell signals. Okay, talk about the stochastic RSI. In my videos, I mostly talk about, is this a good time to buy, yes or no? Again, we zoom out for the macro lens to see, like, is this going to be the most discounted time right now, or are further discounts coming? And as far as the ETH Bitcoin pair, well, this hasn't shown a sign of bottoming yet. And once it does, we'd be looking for sideways higher low, also buy signal on the weekly. You can see here when we go back after going down, we'd be taking a look at buy signals, higher lows, some sort of confirmation like that. Okay, so right now we're still bottoming, and we might still see altcoins underperform Bitcoin for a bit. And so again, when I was taking a look at Bitcoin dominance, and with Bitcoin possibly challenging the former all-time high from March, I came away with the question of, or the thought with Bitcoin dominance of, either we are a lot closer to the top than we think, or a lot further away than we think. Those are my two trains of thought. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. I wanted to do a different video and just chew on this. And if you think I'm wrong, please tell me why and the reasons why. I want to have constructive conversations with you guys. Tell me what you think. Maybe there's something I'm missing. So anyways, just wanted to chew on that with y'all. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.